Tushar Joag has consistently engaged with socio-political issues, dealing with aspects of land and displacement. As an interventionist in the public sphere, he deftly integrates artistic and activist approaches. Grappling with critical questions of art and social change, Joag, as a co-founder of the art collective Open Circle in 1998, organized various exhibitions, public art installations, workshops that probed contemporary politics through the medium of art. As an extension of Open Circle, he created a fictional corporate enterprise, Unicell, the Public Works Cell. Through Unicell, Tushar creates satirical solutions for everyday problems, critiquing the ineffectiveness of our government.
See, since the past about 6-7 years that I've been working, I think I've basically been talking about, through my works, about the kind of development that's happening in our country and in our city as well. So I just believe that the way the development is happening, it's not equal. It's only certain people who kind of benefit from this development and the others are totally left out of it. It's also about the kind of displacement that people face due to this, either the rural poor or the urban poor. We don't realize that, the kind of development that we are bringing is always based on some sort of a model of exploitation. By displacement, I mean not only physical displacement, not only do they have to leave the locations that they're actually living in, but also displacement in terms of their livelihoods. I feel that art can play a very major role in bringing about a change, a transformation in society. And I cannot say that the art I make today is going to immediately give me a change tomorrow. But, it's about starting to ask these questions. I would like art to be meaningful, it's not just a pretty picture that hangs on the wall, but it's a tool, it's a transformative tool. So I would like to, make art that can, influence people or make people want to change this society in a way. It's also about beauty though. I mean, art is also about beauty. It's not that art only has to talk about malaises, it only has to talk about the bad things. Of course, it's about beauty and poetics, and all that comes into the work. I don't make sketches for making works, but I do a lot of drawing, which is like a complete project in itself, I mean, it's not like I make doodles or cartoons for making an artwork. Those are very, very rare instances. Unicell is a project that I started in 2004, and it's basically a project that talks about the situation in Bombay. Through this, I have tried to make interventions in the city through this project, and it's basically about using humor, using satire to kind of highlight problems that I see in the cities. One of the Unicell projects was about the street hawkers that we see. It's very simple, these are people who are citizens of Bombay and they are never given a chance to earn their livelihood. In the sense, we look at them as if they are an obstacle in our way. So the moment there's a raid, the moment there's the cops and the municipality, these guys have to pick up their stuff and run. So instead, Unicell designed vending tables, but in case there's a raid, everything just folds up, it just kind of plop, 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 folds up and pretends to be something else. I mean, there's one table that just folds up completely and looks like a big red velvet couch. Well, the first project of Unicell was a project called the Commuter Attachment Systems, CAS for short. And that actually deals with the whole idea of the local trains, which are like the lifeline of Bombay, and the whole fact that they are still so overcrowded. So what Unicell did was it kind of made these gadgets, and these are attachment systems. So you kind of attach yourself to the train. You can't get into the train, so you attach yourself to the train from the outside. So these were like footrests and the handles that one has inside the local trains. One was providing them on the outside. The works that come out of Unicell are of two types. Some of them are put up in a gallery, they are exhibited in a gallery, but there are some which are actual interventions on the street. I think it's very important to know who you're talking to through that work. So, I mean, as I said, there are some works that sit in a gallery, and the kind of people who come there have different sorts of information access. So I did this project called Looking for Flora, in which the Flora Fountain, which is like a landmark in Bombay. What I did was I recreated the flora to scale. I worked with people who make sets for Bollywood, and I knocked off the flora, in the sense in the model that I made, to scale model that I made, the flora was missing, and the project was called Looking for Flora. And the whole idea was the pedestal is going around the city of Bombay, trying to look for the spirit of the city. I did a few works. I did some digital photographs with the idea of the Crawford Market, and I did one physical work, one work that is in 3D, which is called The Suitcase of the Urban Planner, Jaws. So it's a huge suitcase. The suitcase has a pop-up drawing inside. So when you open the suitcase, the drawing kind of pops up, like you have these greeting cards or like you have these books. And it's the Crawford Market in the jaws of a shark. Well, the suitcase is made out of plywood. It's got like sponge and rexine covering on the outside, and the drawing inside is of course all made on paper. It's basically very thick handmade paper, which is spliced with cloth. It's a photographic print. It's digitally manipulated. So it's not just a plain photograph. So I mean, I use a software on the computer to kind of manipulate things. And what I've done within that photograph is the Crawford Market looks like an animal. It looks like a scared beast that is being what would you say? That's being like pestered by these little objects that are flying around it, which are like excavators and bulldozers, and it's called the pests. This was a series, in fact. There was a proposal for the Mahalakshmi racecourse to be, demolished and having it developed as real estate. What I have done in the races is I have pictures of gantries, and then I've manipulated them to look like horses, which are running on the track. So these gantries are running on the Mahalakshmi racecourse track. So it's like a race to develop the city. It's about who wins the race, kind of a thing. And the third one was called Yet Unbridled. So that showed the Gateway of India, and the Gateway of India like a capricious animal of some sorts, like really leaping and jumping in the sky. And in the foreground, there's like a branch with all these excavators and bulldozers kind of lurking over there. These works were then shown at Krinzinger in Vienna. I thought if it was to be a dialogue between two cultures, I could not make work. It got completed in my studio and was then transported there directly to a gallery and just sat in the gallery, and I take a plane and I just go and land there. So then the whole idea of interaction for me was missing then. So I thought that maybe I have to actually live that interaction. So I decided to actually take a bike. So this was like a performative project towards that, artwork towards the project. I actually rode a bike from Bombay to Shanghai, which was 9,625 odd kilometers. Took me about 53 days, and the whole idea was actually to interact with people, and interact with people in a way that speaks about the two countries. In the final installation in Shanghai, apart from the dismantled bike, there was also ephemera from the journey. So there were all the maps that I had used. The whole blog was translated into Chinese, and also on the maps I had put stickies which spoke about key events that happened during the journey. Before I went into this constricted space, I had made a drawing on the wall with words which looked like a butterfly, which had the words the four columns of democracy. So there was justice, there was equity, there was representation, and the whole butterfly was made up of these words. And I lived in that constricted space for about 5 or 6 days, and every waking hour of mine was spent filling out notebooks, school notebooks, with the words that said, "I will not lose faith in the Indian judiciary and in the Indian democracy." These are things that one chooses to work with. One chooses to work with the whole idea of screening films, putting up an exhibition, having a debate. The idea here was to make them, in a way, see that within the city there are more cities. Basically the fact that the city that you live in might not be the same city as the other person lives in. And now what they are doing is we've got a lot of cardboard cartons, and we are constructing. We've made groups of 3, and we are constructing that little journey from school to home or home to school. And the cardboard cartons are actually the street. So it's a space that you can enter. So you enter the cartons. So it's like a little space that they're creating for you to enter. And the outside of the cartons is what the buildings are. So the walls of the cartons are actually basically the facades of the buildings that they actually would just see.
Our experience is different from each another. How we experience our city that we are representing in our project.
We are showing a passageway like from our home to school. So when you enter from one carton, you're supposed to get out from the other. So I think that's really, a good idea for using cartons, because it's really wide and quite spatial for a person to get in. We
use cardboard, straws, fevicols, and these cartoons.
This side is about the greenery that is very little in Bombay, even though it's still there in patches and people are trying to preserve that. And this side?
This side is just like the general Bombay scene. Construction everywhere, something has been broken down every day. So our end product is actually, we want to show today's Bombay and what we see today and what we hope or what we think is going to be the future. So the peeping thing is actually like a future room that you're looking into what Bombay will probably be in the next 100 years or so.
Right, what they saw on their journey from home to school, and they came out with some excellent stuff. They're very articulate, these kids. They wrote some very nice little, well, you can't call them essays, but like pieces of text that they wrote. And I also told them that they can also not necessarily write about reality. That was the next part. But also things that they would like to see on the way from home to school. So, imagining a Bombay differently also.